My son canceled his wedding. After his fiancée disrespected me, I had always been proud of the close bond I shared with my son, Daniel. From the moment he was born, it was just the two of us after his father passed away when he was young. I worked hard to give him a good life, and he became a bright, successful, and loving young man. So, when Daniel told me he had met someone he wanted to spend his life with, I was genuinely thrilled. He was in love, and as a mother, nothing makes you happier than seeing your child find happiness. Her name was Amanda, and the first time I met her, she seemed pleasant enough. She was beautiful, smart, and had an air of confidence about her that Daniel clearly admired. At first, I thought she was a perfect match for him. But as time went on, small things began to trouble me, things that I couldn't ignore. The first sign that something wasn't right came one evening when Daniel invited me over to their new house for dinner. It was a lovely home, and I was proud that Daniel had worked hard to build a life he could be proud of. I decided to bring along one of Daniel's favorite desserts, a homemade apple pie, something I'd made for him since he was a boy. When I arrived, I handed it to Amanda with a smile. "Oh," she said, giving the pie a cursory glance. "I didn't realize people still made pies from scratch. Thanks, I guess, but we're cutting back on sugar." The tone in her voice made it clear that the gesture was unappreciated. I felt my smile falter, but I quickly brushed it off. Maybe she was just trying to be health conscious, though the way she said it stung more than I wanted to admit. Daniel, ever oblivious to the tension, simply greeted me with a warm hug and ushered me to the dinner table. The dinner conversation that night revolved around wedding plans. Amanda's excitement was palpable as she rattled off details about the venue, the flowers, the dress, all the things a bride-to-be would be excited about. I chimed in now and then, asking if they needed help with anything or if there were any family traditions they might want to incorporate into the ceremony, but Amanda was quick to shut me down. "Oh, no, everything's under control," she said with a tight smile. "My mom and I have it all figured out. I don't think we need any more input, but thanks anyway." I was taken aback by her dismissive tone. Daniel didn't seem to notice, but I felt increasingly out of place. Was I being overly sensitive, or was Amanda intentionally trying to keep me at arm's length? It was their wedding after all, and I didn't want to impose. Still, something about the way Amanda shut me out felt deliberate. Over the next few months, Amanda's attitude toward me grew colder. She barely involved me in any of the wedding planning, even when I offered to help with things as simple as sending out invitations or setting up decorations. When I suggested using a piece of heirloom jewelry as something borrowed, Amanda dismissed the idea as too old-fashioned, without even considering it. I tried to stay optimistic, thinking that maybe she was just overwhelmed with the stress of wedding planning, but in my heart, I knew it was more than that. The real turning point came at the bridal shower. It was a grand affair, hosted by Amanda's family at a fancy hotel. I was excited to attend, though nervous, given how distant Amanda had been lately. When I arrived, I was greeted with polite smiles, but quickly realized I didn't quite fit in. The women there were mostly from Amanda's circle, wealthy, glamorous, and chatty about high-end designers and luxury vacations. I tried to join in the conversations, but they barely acknowledged me. It was as if I were invisible, a mere accessory in Amanda's wedding fantasy. Then came the toasts. One of Amanda's bridesmaids stood up and, with a glass of champagne in hand, began a speech about how Amanda was bringing class and elegance to the wedding. She laughed and said, Amanda's marrying into a family that's a little more traditional, but she'll bring them up to speed." The room erupted into laughter, and I sat there frozen. I realized immediately that the comment was directed at me, a not-so-subtle jab at my simpler lifestyle. I glanced at Amanda, hoping she would say something to diffuse the situation. Instead, she smirked and added, "Well, every family needs a little modern touch, right?" The laughter grew louder, and my heart sank. I felt humiliated, sitting there as they mocked me in front of strangers. I quietly excused myself from the table, feeling tears pricking at my eyes. I left the bridal shower early, too upset to stay any longer. I had never felt so disrespected in my life. The next day, Daniel came by to check on me. He noticed I had left the party early and wanted to make sure I was okay. I hesitated, not wanting to burden him with my feelings, but I knew I had to say something. Daniel, I love you and I don't want to cause any problems, but I have to tell you. I feel like Amanda doesn't respect me, I said gently. At the bridal shower, they made jokes about our family, and Amanda didn't say a word to stop them. She's been so distant, and I don't know what I did wrong. Daniel looked confused, as if he hadn't noticed any of the tension. Mom, I'm sure it's just wedding stress. Amanda didn't mean anything by it. You know how these things can get out of hand. I wanted to believe him, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just about wedding stress. Amanda had been making it clear for months that she didn't see me as part of her life with Daniel. I just didn't know how to make Daniel see it. Then came the rehearsal dinner, the night everything changed. It was supposed to be a celebration, a joyful evening with family and friends before the big day. But from the moment I arrived, I could feel the tension. Amanda barely acknowledged me, focusing all her attention on her friends and family. I tried to engage in conversation, but it felt like every time I spoke, Amanda cut me off or redirected the topic. Toward the end of the night, I overheard Amanda talking to one of her bridesmaids. I just wish Daniel wasn't so attached to his mother, she said, not bothering to lower her voice. It's like she's always hanging around. We don't need her help with anything. I mean, we're starting a new life, not dragging his old one along with us. My heart shattered. I had tried so hard to be supportive, to welcome Amanda into our family, but she didn't want me there. She saw me as a burden, something to be cast aside. I felt sick to my stomach and left the dinner early, unable to bear the pain any longer. The next morning, Daniel showed up at my house looking pale and exhausted. His eyes were red, and I could tell he hadn't slept. I talked to Amanda, he said quietly, sitting down across from me. She doesn't want you involved in the wedding or in our lives after we're married. His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I could barely find my voice. What did you say to her? Daniel's expression hardened. I told her that if she couldn't respect you, then maybe we shouldn't be getting married. I can't marry someone who doesn't respect my family, especially you. I thought she would apologize, but instead, she said I needed to choose, her or you. I stared at him, stunned. And what did you choose? Daniel looked at me, his eyes filled with sadness. I canceled the wedding. In that moment, my heart broke for him. I knew how much he loved Amanda, and calling off the wedding must have been one of the hardest decisions of his life. But at the same time, I was relieved. I had raised Daniel to be a good man, someone who valued family and loyalty, and in the end, he had made the right choice. Amanda tried to contact him after the wedding was called off, but Daniel refused to take her calls. He knew that no relationship could survive without mutual respect, and Amanda had made it clear that she didn't value our family. The wedding was officially canceled, and the days that followed were filled with a strange mix of sadness and relief. While the pain of losing Amanda lingered, my bond with Daniel grew even stronger. He had seen the truth before it was too late, and for that, I was grateful. It wasn't the ending I had imagined for my son's love story, but it was better than living in a marriage where one partner disrespected the other's family. Life moved on, and though the wedding never happened, I knew one thing for sure. Daniel's love and loyalty to me would never waver, and in the end, that was all that mattered. When my son, Daniel, introduced me to his fiancée, Amanda, I was excited for his future. But as wedding plans unfolded, I noticed Amanda's growing disregard and disrespect toward me. From subtle dismissals to outright humiliating comments, her true colors emerged. Despite my efforts to be supportive, Amanda made it clear that I wasn't welcome in their new life together. Things came to a breaking point when Daniel was forced to choose between his mother and his bride-to-be. In the end, Daniel made a heart-wrenching decision that would change both of our lives forever.